Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanet Hari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanet Hari Yasodanandana Prajaganaya Jana Yasodanandana Prajaganaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanet Hari Vallabha Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanet Hari Vallabha Girivanet Hari Yasodanandana Prajaganaranjana Yasodanandana Prajaganaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Bihari Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Bhagavacharya Satarya Satashishi Maharaj Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Anat Gauda Vaishnavinda Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Sikho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nishananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Gauda Bhaktivinoda Ki ISKCON founder Srila Prabhupada Ki Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki Vrindavan Dham Ki Mayapur Dham Ki Navadvip Dham Ki Jamuna Mai Ki Ganga Mai Ki Tulsi Devi Ki Bhakta Devi Ki Shri Radha Golokananda Ki Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. just touch this thing. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevayam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevayam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevayam. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th Canto, Chapter 58. Krishna's, I can't see the title, but it's Krishna's Marrying Five Queens or something. And we're going to begin on text 5. I think we're just going to read like 3. We're going to take it to, well, Queen Kunti speaks. So that's the next dialogue, which is like 3 texts, I think. And then somebody can speak about Queen Kunti next. So it's the next dialogue. Param manasa nasna asinam param asana asinam Krishna Krishnam anidita Krishna Krishnam anidita Navoda Vridita Kinchit Navoda Virdita Kinchit Chanair Eight Yat Bhayavanadata Paramanasa Asinam Krishna Krishnam Anidita Navoda Virdita Kinchit Chanair Eyabaya Vandata Paramasana Asinam Krishna Krishnam Anidita Nahova Vidita Kinchit Chanair Eyabaya Vanata Paramasana Asinam Krishna Krishnam Anidita Navodha Vridita Kanchit Chanair Eyabaya Vandata Paramasana Asinam Krishna Krishna Aniditam Param Hasana Astinam Krishnam Krishnam Anidita Paramasana Asinam Krishna Krishna Manidita Parama, exalted. Asane, on a seat. Asinam, sitting. Krishna, Dropada. that was Siri. Some reason, somehow, I thought I was calling her. Okay, I'm sorry. So Krishna, Draupadi. So that's another name for Krishna. You see, if you look at the word, it's got that long A. So that'll be just a little bit that sometimes Draupadi is called Krishna, but it's spelled, you can see the spelling. And some you see Arjuna is also called Krishna sometimes. So it's a slight difference primarily in the spelling when you read it, who they're discussing. So Krishna again, Krishna, Anindita, blameless, Nava, newly. It's like Nava Vrindavan, right? That's New Vrindavan, right? So that's in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, where Krishna was taken to this. It was built by Vishwakarma. So Nava. I think Krishna Priya's got something on her door, Nava something. I've seen their stories, and they have their new Dwarka and Nava. Okay, so let's get through this, sorry. Nava newly. Udha, married. Vridita, shy. Kinchit, somewhat. Sanai, slowly. Etya, approaching. Abhyavanandata, offering her obeisances. Translation: faultless Draupadi, the Pandava's newly married wife, slowly and somewhat timidly approached Lord Krishna, who sat on an exalted seat, and offered him her obeisances. So repeat: faultless Draupadi, the Pandava's newly married wife, slowly and somewhat timidly approached Lord Krishna, who sat on an exalted seat, and offered him her obeisances. Purport. Srimati Draupadi was so devoted to Krishna that she herself was called Krishna, which is the feminine form of the name. And Arjuna was also called Krishna because of his devotion to the Lord. Similarly, the devotees on the modern Krishna conscious movement are often called the Krishnas, right? So this is like the movement, the Krishnas. Or if you lived in New Vrindavan, they called you the Hari Critters. You know, that's the local people there, their slang. So, Krishna. So, let me find out where I was at. Oh, okay, backed up, Krishnas. So it appears that the custom of addressing Krishna's devotees by his name has a long history. Because we have Krishna Das, you know, you have these different names. You know, servant of Krishna. Devotees have these names. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, very short, he says that Draupadi, Krishna, also greeted Krishna. And Jiva Goswami comments that Krishna was seated in the best seat. By the order of the Lord, the Pandavas sat on their individual seats because Draupadi had the same name Krishna as Krishna. They were friends. Coming slightly in front, Abhi, very slowly, she offered respects. And so Sanatana Goswami is a little bit longer, but Jiva repeats some of his. Okay, so I'm going to just skip the first couple of sentences of Sanatana, so we already read that in Jiva's. She approached somewhat shyly because she was newly married or because her chaste nature. She did not have strong shyness since she did not have conjugal feelings for him. She was not able to maintain shyness because of the nature of seeing him or because she lost control, or because of shyness, she slowly greeted him, offering him obeisances with 5 limbs and slightly touching her feet. Om Ganda Timarandisha, Ganajana Shilakaya, Chakrantapina, Tajrashri Gurade Namaha. So I mentioned this a few times in the Hari Bhakti Vilas. They talk about the different obeisances. And basically, I haven't read the Hari Bhakti Vilas, even though I have it. I've read some of it. It's just one of those, just all rules and regulations, basically, how Vaishnavas. But it's so strict that what little I read is like, it's kind of depressing. There's no way I can come to that standard. And what Prabhupada said is primarily for India, devotees who have grown up in a culture that have this, from their early childhood, they have this background impregnated in them. And often, I heard someone make it, words are impregnated with the culture that they're from. So different cultures will have a language, and along with that language, there's certain cultural implications that come with that. When you say something, there's a whole background of a culture that has specific meanings to the person you're talking to. So she's 5 limbs of her body. It's just like her knees, her hands, and her head. She's got those obeisances. We talked about the basic obeisances, just being respectful. Hello, greeting somebody, just saying, acknowledging somebody. And then there's, you bow your heads like that, just, pranams. And it's very simple, but it's respectful. And in Asia, in some countries, they still kind of do that just naturally. And in China or in Japan, it's really, you see it a lot. It's just show a sign of respect. And then, of course, what she did here is a little bit more elevated. And then, of course, there's dandavats, where you lay. Dandavats, of course, means stick. So you lay down like a stick. And you offer your 5 parts, plus your entire body, your mind, and your words. Everything. Not just everything you're offering. Okay, so let's go to the next verse. And she slightly touched his feet too. So that's, you can see that there's probably a little bit more intimacy there than most people would have. Not probably everybody would go to that level, would like to. But so text number 6. Tatayeva satyaki parthai pujitas chabivandita asasa dasane nacha pujita paryupasata. Translation. Satyaki also accepted a seat of honor after receiving worship and welcome from the Pandavas. And the Lord's other companions, being duly honored, sat down in various places. It's Vishwanath. Others accompanying Krishna were also welcomed, punjita, and seated. The alternate reading with punjita means they were seated by those who had offered respects to them. So it's slightly different, but it's primarily the same. Sometimes you can see that the main point is brought out there. Jiva Goswami, just as Krishna was worshipped, so his follower Satyaki was also worshipped and welcomed, made comfortable according to his status as a guest. Another version has Abhivandita. Other guests were seated nearby, Upa, in the 4 directions, Pari. And then Sant Goswami. In the same manner, though it is not mentioned, Satyaki was worshipped, or as Krishna was embraced, he was embraced. He was worshipped and welcomed as a guest according to the rules, making him comfortable. Or they had him happy with praises, served by fanning, par upasada. Others sat down, For others sat asita closely, upa, in the four directions, pari. So it's based on etiquette, based on relationship, those who are younger or older, what part of the family are they? They friends of the family, or are they members of the family? So these things are all recognized. Of course, they know each other very well. So when they come, they know who's who. And so therefore, based on their understanding of each other, they showed respectful according to each one's nature. That is, we see that the intimacy of the relationship that's brought out by how welcome a person receives another person. How much, inside your heart, how you're feeling, how you welcome that person. How warm a welcome, because sometimes it's described, So, even though they describe these in different manners, there's still the important point here is that these are intimate relationships. And that's the point here that we're being shared. We're given this is one thing amazing about reading these books, is we're given a front row seat to Krishna's pastimes. It's left to our, not a whole lot of imagination. It's some there based on how we're brought, how we're our conditioning. But for the most part, this information is pretty detailed to a certain degree, as much as possible in the constraint that's given. But a complete picture. That's why Krishna describes that he comes with his entire entourage. Everybody comes. He doesn't, like the king doesn't come. The reason is that we can get a complete picture of who is that person who's coming, who's showing up, or in the same case, you might go and see someone. You'll see their entire, wealth and other their friends and relationships. So that is the purpose. As the Acharyas tell us why Krishna comes with all his entourage. So we have a complete understanding of what we're getting into. So text 7, this will be read text 7. Pritam samagatya krita abhivadanas tayati har dardra drashya justri justir rambita apristastam stam kusamam saha sunsam pritiri sva saram pariprishta badhavaha. Translation. The Lord then went to see his aunt, Queen Kunti. He bowed down to her, and she embraced him, her eyes moist with great affection. Lord Krishna inquired from her and her daughter-in-law, Draupadi, about their welfare, and they in turn questioned him at length about his relatives in Dwarka. Purport. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur envisions that as Lord Krishna was sitting on his seat, he saw his aunt Kunti approaching in great eagerness to see him. He then rose at once quickly, went up to her, and offered his obeisances. Her eyes moistened with extreme love. She embraced him and smelled his head. So she's his aunt. This is considered Krishna's aunt. So Vishwanath, seeing Kunti approaching with great eagerness, Krishna rose from his seat and greeted her. So we just basically read that. That was pretty much a repeat of. So let's go to Jiva Goswami's. Draupadi lived in a separate part of the palace as the one wife of all the Pandavas. When Krishna suddenly arrived, he met with the Pandavas and later met Draupadi, going within the rooms attached to the palace. He then met Kunti. He offered respects while announcing his name, Abhivandana. He asked her in detail, Apristava, since she was his aunt. They asked him about his relatives as Balaram, Krishna did not ask Draupadi's questions since she was newly married and bashful. He instead asked Kunti. There we also see etiquette, even amongst Krishna, how he relates with, so, we see that, there's a lot of affection, a lot of etiquette here. This is all mixed together. A lot of awe and reverence between all these members. You don't have any really outsiders, because they can let their guard down. They can be emotional if they need to be, like Kunti is crying. So you don't have to guard their senses, or worried about being embarrassed by certain feelings. And of course, even Krishna at times could be a little embarrassed, And when Krishna lived at Govardhan Hill, at one point he was looking at the gopis and checking the gopis out. And Balaram kind of looked at him, and then he kind of noticed that Balaram was looking at him, checking out the gopis, and so he was a little bit embarrassed, he got caught a little bit, And their age is really pretty young, because he was like just about to turn 8 years old when he lived at Govardhan Hill. I mean, he stole the gopis, when they were taking a bath, and one husband, they were like 5 years old. These are very young, 5, 6 years old. And Krishna was similarly not 5, 6 years old when this happened. He was about 7 years old. Of course, we know Krishna's unlimited age, but in the span of his time, he makes his appearance. And then it describes, and I'm going to read that here in a minute, because I was this is really kind of interesting. So he leaves, Akrura comes and gets him. He just turns 11 years old. And the next day he kills Kamsa. So he's very young. So in all these activities we're reading about now, it's not of course his total years is 125 years he spent in Dwarka, his entire life. So the first 10 years, 11 years was in Vrindavan. So this is what we're signing up. If you want to be a gopi, we'll just start. That's the highest, so we might as well just talk about what being a gopi. So you, as it describes, you want Krishna as your husband. No question, he's extremely beautiful. And so you perform these rituals, and you're bathing in the river, and Krishna comes and he steals your clothes, and then we know that whole pastime, goes on. So you go through that with Krishna, and the love for Krishna overcomes ultimately any kind of shyness they might have. So then eventually they enter the rasa dance. They go out at night with Krishna, and they're dancing, and those nights would describe some life like a million years. Life seems like forever, And so that went on. We're talking about not very that long, for a couple of years. So this was going on. Of course, initially some of the gopis at first couldn't get out of the house. The sadhakas, these were devotees who got to that level. They want to be with Krishna so much. They said there's intense eagerness, or a longness, or lobha, greed. That's what it takes to get there. And then when you get there, and you spend all these few years with Krishna dancing, he leaves. And you're super attached. And then you're plunged into this despair of anxiety and separation. And then you hear he gets married. And this is the person of your dreams. This is everything about Krishna. You're lying. So you have to be willing to put up with all of that. And your love cannot waver at any point. Your attachment, you've got your devotion is so strong. Of course, it's already completely purified by that time. And so, but Krishna appeared to the gopis, as acharyas tell us, even after a couple of months, in their samadhi, their intense meditation and thinking about Krishna. Krishna appeared. Not that he went, So it wasn't like they had to spend 100 years before they saw him again. But that's what you're signing up for. This intense. But then, the end result of that you've actually been purified. That's why I say it's rarely attained, that position. It's rarely achieved. Ratnaradika was talking about Gopakumar yesterday in the pastimes with Dwarka and Ayodhya and going through these different places. And she talked about greed, she talked about danya, humility, and prema are together. You can't have one without the other. And Briya Bhagavatam, it's kind of like two doors, a double door, and they both open. So you can't be, without one, you can't have the other. So, I forgot what I was going to say. So, humility and prema, and then, maybe it'll come back. I'm very tired. I'm sorry. Anyway, Narada Muni is having this conversation with Gopakumar, and Uddhava's there. So and even we'd hear a little bit about how, Draupadi's not engaged in a conversation, but he's talking with Queen Kunti. Some people are seated at different places in the assembly when they all come. Krishna gives a prominent seat, and everybody's seated, and based on their relationship, either they're included or not included into a conversation, whatever conversation is going on. It's all based on your relation. Not everybody, it's a crowd of noise. It's respect and on reverence that's going on there. So not everybody's interrupting each other. There's this conversations going on. And so Narada Muni, when he sees how intense the desire of Gopakumar, there's unwavering desire to be with Krishna, he turns to Uddhava and he says, he wants something that you and me can't even attain. So he reveals that we can't even get there. And this is, and of course, Gopakumar makes it. We have to be very, very determined. We can see that it could take a while, and we shouldn't be discouraged by that. Even though we shouldn't think that we don't have to settle for something less. We have to continually, and that greed comes in the association of devotees. Sometimes that greed comes in, for me, it comes from reading the books of the acharyas, and it's just stories and these pastimes that stimulate, one's desire, and that motivates and compels one to keep moving forward. So this is the value of reading these books. And sometimes everybody's different, and our relationship with Krishna reciprocates a little bit differently with everybody, how you approach him. And some things happen to some people, like, that have meaning to that particular person. It's like I would just finish reading the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And then, this was like about a month ago, in one of my readings. I finished it, and then I started reading Prabhupada's concluding words, And Prabhupada says that today is Sunday, November the 10th, 1974. And I stopped for a minute, and I said, well, today is Sunday, November the 10th, 2024. So I was like, wow, 50 years ago to the day, Prabhupada, so that has, to me, that's like, okay, that stimulates me. And there's different things that stimulate each other. I'm not having any meeting with anybody else, but when I read that, I said, wow, that's really far out, right? So I was in Vrindavan, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, and I was reading Chaitanya. I'd finished reading Chaitanya Charitamrita in Vrindavan. One of my times I read it. Every day I want to get a little diet of Lord Chaitanya, every day. So every day I read just a little bit. And you get through all these books. It's just amazing. Even if you I do it a little bit different, but I like Vaishesheka's plan, where he numbered all the books. You read so many pages a day. He has a title for a page a day or something. And so you get through all these books. If you just read 3 pages a day, it'll take you this long to get through these books. If you read 10 pages, so he has it all broke down. Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. So in a sense, it kind of, there's some encouragement there. That's the meaning behind it. So anyway, I was in Vrindavan, And I'd finished reading Brihad Bhagavatamrita, and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he says that in Vrindavan, in the year of 1537, Saka era, 1615, in the month of Jaishri Beiju, on the Sunday, the 5th day of the waning moon, Chaitanya Charitamrita has been completed. So I was in rush, wow, this is 2015. 500 years ago, I just completed, but 500 years ago, he's completed Chaitanya. So this, oh wow, this is like a little bit more nectar. This compels just to keep going. So these types of things, I mean, reading has its huge benefits. Like I mentioned, you would get a front row seat. I mean, there's one time I was reading Brihad Bhagavatamrita, and I was in Vrindavan. Another time, I was actually at Govardhan, right there at Radhakund. And at the end of Brihad Bhagavatamrita, I would read Brihad Bhagavatamrita, and the very last is called the Bhakta Rasayana verses. It's got the whole Leela. It's really, to me, I like this Leela. But then you get these last 60, 70 verses, they're just, Sanatana Goswami combines some of the most important verses from the 10th canto, some from the 11th, and a few of them from the Brahma Samhita. And he puts them all together, and at the end of and so of course, that becomes a little laborious, you know, then after all this Leela, because I'm not very that advanced, I don't have a big taste, so I get through those. But this time I'd finished reading Brihad Bhagavatamrita. I was in Vrindavan, the Radhakund. I was there supposed to be for 3 or 4 days, but then Modi, is he the guy in charge over there? He was just kind of new, and he was coming to Govardhan. And they had shut down the roads, they were repaving. So anyway, we couldn't leave, it was stuck there for another 10 days. And during that time, I read those last verses from the Brihad, and it was completely different realization that I'd ever experienced the previous time. For some, Krishna sometimes can be very, very sweet, you know, to us. You know, I don't deserve what I get, but at the same time, the nectar is there. So I'm going to read something. I wanted to talk about Krishna's age, different ages. And anybody have any questions at this point? Why what? You get a lot of attachment, and then I'm sorry, you get why? Yeah, that's actually a good. Where do we have to go? Right. Well, because it intensifies our love. The absence makes the heart grow fonder. So there's again, for sadhakas, it's the purification process. It becomes intensified. Some people say maybe it's a test. Do you really want to be with Krishna? Right? He handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me brokenhearted by not being present before me. This is what we're signing up for. And it's not just more than just words. It's actual meaningful relationship. We say it every morning, and it's nice to say it. But the idea is to move into that emotional state where that actually is happening, that we're so attached to Krishna, you know, with or without. So that Vipralamba is for our love to grow for Krishna. Because Maya's pretty strong. Maya wins. Maya's won. We've been stuck here forever. I mean, there's no end. There's no way we can search out the beginning. So that is there. So you can see to get to Krishna's Goloka Vrindavan requires some intense greed. Jiva Goswami means Rupa Goswami, Loba. That's the price we have to pay. That's the requirement. So, anybody else? Anything else? That okay? Or okay, so kind of got out of turn here, but I'll read. We just got maybe a few minutes, but so Krishna's very young. It's pretty amazing that he can do all these things.
Well, there's some kind of rationality in that people talk about. But when he goes in the arena as an 11-year-old boy, and you got these huge wrestlers. You've seen the pictures. These huge, massive men, all buffed out, muscles. And that most of the Kshatriyas are like that. Krishna has never displayed that way. But all the other Kshatriyas, Bhima, all these are warriors. I mean, their bodies sometimes are like steel framed. That term is often used. Very strong. But he kills these wrestlers like it's nothing, So this is back on chapter 45 of Vishwanath's purport, in text 3. We'll read this real quick. It says, because of your anxiety for us, you never had the opportunity of happiness of raising us through the Bali. This is Devaki. Her son's been gone, now he's back. And Krishna's talking to her, you didn't get a chance to raise us. Yasoda did that. You had to give us up, basically. Now he's 11 years old. They missed that whole. So through the Balya, that's 1 to 5 years old, and then Palganda is 5 to 6, and Kishore ages, 11 to 15. That's the different ages. But the women of Mathura mentioned in chapter 44, verse 8, that Krishna and Balaram were of Kishore age and had not reached Yavana. Thus, the match between the huge wrestlers and the young boys was unequal. Therefore, it cannot be said that they had finished their Kishore age. Kumar age is up to the 5th. Palganda is the 5th to the 10th, and Kishore is from the 10th to the 15th. After that, Yavana. Krishna is 11 when he killed Kamsa. He's never really over the age of 15 years, I think 7 months. That's the peak of his youth. He's an eternal teenager. Why not? If you were going to be, you don't want to be an old man, as like often Christians and people think he is old. Of course, he said, the age is a lot quicker, when he kills, Trinatarta and kills all these little demons as a young child. They're completely outmatched. They don't realize it. But he plays this. He likes to play this. He likes to have this affection of his mother. He likes to have his mother hold him. He likes to have his mother kiss him, right? You can't get. God, if you're God, people don't want to approach you like that. If they think you're God, they don't have that. So he comes from the material world for this leelas, so he can experience these types of emotions. These aren't infinite. Of course, they're there, but they're a little bit different. So, I think that's it. Krishna and Balaram secretly lived in Vraja until the 11th year because of this statement and the fact that they did not undergo the Apana Samskara, which is he's going to get initiated. He didn't get initiated then. When he came to Dwarka, they sent him to school and gave him his Brahmin thread. He got initiated. Okay. And then he talks about what Drista said about counting years. Vishwanath talks about that also. Okay. Thank you.
Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham
Sundarangam Kandar ako Ikamaniya Vishesha Shobha
Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami
Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasa Sakalen Priya Priti Manti Vasyanti Panti Kayanti Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu Jala Vigrahasya
Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami
Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham
Yasomadinandana Braju Barunagaram Gokularam Jana Kana 77. Gopi Paranadana Madana Manohara Gopi Paranadana Madana Manohara Aliyadamona Vidana Kaliyadamona Vidana Amalaharina Mamiya Vilasa Amalaharina Mamiya Vilasa Vipina Purandara Navina Nagara Bora Vansivadana Suvasa Vipina Purandara Navina Nagara Bora Vansivadana Suvasa Jana Palana Surakulana Sana Nanda Godanara Koala Navanita Taskara Sundarananda Gopala Jamnatachara Gopi Vasanahara Dasarasika Kripamoya Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna is beloved son of Yashoda, transcendental lover in the land of Braj, the delight of Gokula, known by the nickname Kana, the wealth of the lives of the gopis, the attractor of Cupid, and punisher of the Kali. These pure, holy names of Lord Hari are full of sweet nectarian pastimes. Lord of the 12 forests of Braj, ever youthful, best of lovers, player of the flute, and excellent dresser, protector of the inhabitants of Vrindavan, destroyer of the demoniac dynasties, keeper and tender of Nanda's cows, giver of pleasure, cows, land, and spiritual senses, husband of the goddess of fortune, butter thief, and beautiful little cowherd boy of Nanda Maharaj, wanderer of the Yamuna riverbanks, thief of the garments of the gopis, enjoyer of the mellows of the rasa dance, very merciful, lover and beloved of Sri Radha, the great dancer of Vrindavan, and the only shelter of Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai, Shri Radha Golokananda ki jai, Chaito Darpana Marjanam, Bhava Mahantavagni Nirvaranam, Shreya Kairavya Chandrika Vitaranam, Vijabadu Jivanam, Anandam Budi Vardhanam, Pratipanam Purnamrita Swadanam, Sarvatma Snapanam, Param Vijayate, Shri Krishna Sankirtanam, Nam Namakari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shaktis, Tatra Pitani Amita Smarane Nakala, Etadrijita Vakriba Bhagavan Mamapi, Dordaiva Midrishami Hajjanina Nuraga, Trinadapi Sunichena, Torapi Suhishuna, Amani Namana Dana, Kirtaniya Sadahari, Nadanam Najanam Nasundarim, Gavitam Vajagadisha Kamae, Mama Janmani Janmani Ishvare, Bhavatad Bhaktir Hoitaki Twai, Hainanda Tanuja Kinkaram, Patitam Mam Vishame Bhavam Buddha, Kribayata Vapada Pankaja, Stita Duli Sadrashim Vachintaya Haribo. Nayanam Galadashu Daraya, Varanam Gadgadurudaya Gira, Pulakarnishitam Vapukada, Tavanamagrahane Bhavishyati, Yugayatam Namishena, Chakshusha Pravashayatam, Shunayatam Jagat Sarvam Govindam Virahename, Ashlisha Vapadamritam Panastumam, Adarshanam Marmahata Karotuva, Yatatatava Vidadatu Lampato Matprananastastu Saiva Napara. Victory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. Oh, my Lord, congregational chanting of your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you've invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. Oh, my Lord, out of kindness you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names, but I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service